My name is Jim Stanton.
Well, hi, Jim. How
Hi.
are you?
Just waiting for everybody. Anyway, so I do have the privilege of working with Roundtable, and it's changed a little bit over the years. First time I ever did Roundtable was back in the 80s. I was in Delta, Utah, and I got to work with Webelos, and I went to Roundtable, and about a year later, they made me Roundtable commissioner, and I had a great experience at that point in time, but things have changed a lot since then, okay? And so recently, with the realignment, I've worked as a Roundtable commissioner for the Timpanogos district. So that's where I'm coming from. And this is the Balanced Roundtable promotion. So we're going to talk about marketing today, okay? So glad to have you here. So course objectives, so let's just go over these real quick. Determine the roundtable audience. Identify available resources, learn to craft a message. And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about crafting a message, okay? Understand various ways to improve roundtable attendance. Who do we want to attend roundtable? Who's it for? Right from the board. Okay, so who? Tell the minute I wrote on the board. And I always like to, well, check the markers aren't good. So most people just leave them right here, you know.
Smart.
So who do we want there?
Well, it's mostly unit leaders.
Okay.
I think we want to be more specific. A lot of times what you get there is the experienced leaders who understand the importance of roundtable. I think we need to get the newer people there we need to drive the reason why they need to be there to the newer people.
Okay, the newer people.
When I was a roundtable commissioner, I wanted people to leave with some things that they could use that week. So even the newer ones, I wanted them to learn the new things. But for me, I also wanted to have the more experienced one there because I wanted them to continually improve and grow and also help train the new ones.
Well, that's a good point.
Okay. So you want the experienced people there to share with the new people.
And to see that, you know, this uncomfortable feeling I'm having right now for a new one, it's going to go away. And these guys, and you've got resources too. So anyway, I'm not taking over your class.
No, that's fine. I believe in facilitating, and we call it a roundtable. Why do we call it a roundtable? Think about that. You know, if we were at a round table, which would be really sweet.
We all see each other. I will.
Right. There's not a head of the table.
We're all participants. And I think that's something important to think. So, you know, obviously, and hopefully, because when I think about it, I'm thinking about Boy Scouts, because I work with the Boy Scout Roundtable. And I would like to see the Scoutmasters there, maybe the assistant Scoutmasters. When I worked in the Cub Scout Roundtable, we had Cub Scout Roundtable, we had a breakout for the pack Cub Masters, Webelos leaders, and the den leader, you know, back then it was only bear and wolf, okay? But it'd be awesome if you had a breakout room for just each of those individual leaders.
You know, we used to have breakouts for the committee chair.
And it could be chairman, yeah, so depending on what you have, so if we look at the next slide. Who do we want to attend roundtable? Well, this would be on the Cub Scout side, the Boy Scout side, venturing, and commissioners. And I realize, depending on how well attended it is, how many breakout groups you would be able to have. So that's who we want to attend roundtable.
Can I ask just a question? You know,
Yeah. I'm gonna come to this side, so I'm not
okay, so,
quite light.
so I'm working with the venture roundtable. And you asked, who do you want to attend roundtable? And I thought about this. Who actually runs the older scouts program, the venture scouts? It's the youth leaders, isn't it?
Yes.
So we
Yeah.
have adults that are advisors. But the real leaders are. Why, is there any reason why I shouldn't come to?
I'm not-
So when you get to the venture.
I'm not a
when you get-
I'm not a
let me
physician, I
answer
don't
that.
have the answer, okay?
The second, when you get to the venture really should have their own, and I think they call it a huddle or a VA or the,
At least that's what.
and we've tried, Cheryl Winterton has tried and we've to get a youth to be over for the whole council. We get somebody get going and then they're gone. But so the ideal would be, so right now we're do it as you possibly can do. Hopefully we can get to the point where we do that on a council basis with that. And his district has been, one of them has been, Stuart has been pushing that a lot and Cheryl Whittington.
So anyway, but
A lot of talk, we haven't got any there.
Well, hey, we're all tried.
That's right.
yeah. Now, I don't. And I think the reason we bring up the question, who do we want there? Who's our audience? Because really, in promoting something, I guess the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, who are we trying to reach? What are we trying to reach? Okay, I'm just gonna give two examples real quick. Yesterday, or the day before, and it's the second time I've had this happen, or the third time I've had it happen, is I had a guy knock on my door telling me I had some wind damage on my roof. I'm going like, yeah, I think there's one tile missing up there, I'm not really concerned about that. Now, but he said something that perked my eyes as opposed to the first time that happened, People were in your neighborhood were looking at the roofs. Well, these guys were salesmen for roofing companies. And he said, he crafted his message in such a way that it actually made me think twice, okay? Because I'm not gonna replace my roof. My house is about 15 years old. I don't think the roof needs to be replaced yet. Okay, but he says the insurance will pay for it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, this is why. And my daughter, about 6 months ago, 3 months ago, had her roof replaced and the insurance paid for most of it. That's why they didn't do it. The insurance paid for it. I thought, oh, he's crafting his message. In business, does anyone here have their own little business? Okay, how do you reach your customers? Have you ever thought about that?
Well, some of it's just, at my stage in my life, a lot of it is referrals.
Referrals, okay. Have you defined what your business, what type of target you want to reach?
Anybody wants to buy a house?
Anyone want to buy a house, okay?
Who's my target market?
Yeah,
I do remodels, and so a big part of that is somebody that's interested in doing a remodel.
and do you have a specific type of remodel you like to do?
My favorite would probably be basically build outs or
So let's say it's basement build out, so you're gonna go for those people who just bought a new home that have an unfinished basement.
That's,
And the reason,
Okay, I used to have a computer business. I'm retired, but and I was trying to attract small businesses that needed automation in their offices and so.
okay, so I work, well, I'm semi-retired, but for years I've done taxes on the side. And my favorite target audience are PTAs, Parent Teachers Associations in Southern California, in the county of Ventura. And, you know, as I was preparing for this, I was thinking about, I just finished up, well, tax season finishes up on Tuesday for those guys. But every year they have new leaders, and I've been sending out letters in June to the old leadership, and it kind of dawned on me this year, like, oh, maybe I should send out my letters in September to all the new leaders to get them to say, hey, I've been doing your taxes for the last several years, you know, stuff doesn't get passed on. But it's like knowing, you know, who do I want to attract? Now, how do I get them there? So first off is, who do we want? You know, I have a target market, well-defined. You know, we have, you know, obviously we want the leaders, you know, whether the Cub Scouts or the Boy Scouts, to get them there. And so the thing it talks about today's people, you know, and I look at that, busy with family work and many scouting hats. And we learned earlier that we should only have one scouting hat. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, I took notes. It said one hat. Okay, you know, people do want to make a difference, you know. We believe, I mean, the reason we're here today is because we all believe in scouting. We believe that scouting has value for today's youth. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Maybe not us, but the younger generation, much more tech savvy than we are. They want structure and flexibility, and take a look at this workplace. A lot different office than the office that we probably all worked in during our careers, you know. But the flexibility, structure and flexibility are important to people. So how do we get these, you know, busy people to come to our roundtable?
save them time.
Save them time, okay? And how did they even know about it? That's the real question. And so I'm gonna give you a handout. What do we use to advertise? How do we advertise?
Commissioners.
Commissioners?
Oh, if you read that, should you be using email, social media, websites, and district newsletter and other?
Okay, so I prepared a handout, and let me tell you something. Let me turn the handout over. Give me 1 second, okay? There's one definition there on the top. If I wrote this word on the board, we're going to talk about this later. The lead. Does anyone know what that means? And what it's used at?
A lead is somebody that might have some interest in what you do.
Okay. And it's spelled LEDE. I'll give you, it's a word for journalists use it. Have you ever seen this word or heard of this word or ever used it in your vocabulary?
Not the way that's spelled.
Not the way it's spelled. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. But when we talk about the social media in the syllabus, it listed all these possible social media besides email. So I'm going to be very honest with you. I said, I have no clue what those are. And I figure most of us don't. So if you turn the page and look at this, it talks about all the different apps, social media. So there's this thing called GroupMe, and tells us what it is. Thank you, Webster's, not Webster's, what is that? This is the one that's online. But anyway, so I looked all the terms up. What's that?
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia, thank you. So here's all the Wikipedia definitions. Now, I've never used GroupMe.
I actually have this last year. I've been forced to, but.
Okay, so, and most of it, now, if I go back a slide, I mean, tech savvy and time oriented. A lot of the younger generation, and that's anyone under 50, pretty much, are probably more familiar with this. But as we're involved, expand, then there's Remind, Slack. At least there's one that I had heard of. I've never used Snapchat. And I know my kids use Snapchat. I don't have it. I don't use it. WhatsApp, Messenger, basically on Facebook. And then there's Basecamp, but it's actually changed name to 37 Signal. So if I went through it, I said, okay, I'm going to find out what these are because I had no clue what they were. How can I talk about something? But they're all social media apps. Most of us today email, right? So do you read every single email you get?
No.
What do you look at?
The ones that I know who they're coming from,
Okay. Anything else?
ones with a good opening line or a teaser, a good teaser.
A good teaser, a good opening line, okay? So, and hey, I'm the same way. I scroll through them and somehow you get on an email and our emails are out there. We get more probably junk email than we get real email, right? So how do we know what we look at and what do we do?
And the scary part of email is, I'm just real cautious when I see something that I'm not expecting. And they want me to click on something. As soon as they want me to click on something, then I'm gone.
Yeah. So, but the whole thing about all this, and the one thing that's not up here, and I think it's probably the reason it's not up there because of the cost, is snail mail.
Yeah.
But what would happen, and I only bring that up because it's not up there. Everything up here is probably going to be electronic. What would happen if we sent a little postcard to all those people who wanted to come to Roundtable? Now it's cost prohibitive and I realize that.
Probably get better with the text.
Yeah, text message,
Because half my grandkids, if I call them, they don't answer. If I text them, they respond.
And a lot of times people would rather receive a text message and respond to a text message than a phone call.
Yep.
It's just changes in our society the last 20 years. Because people didn't text 20 years ago. It was too cumbersome. Today it's like, no, we don't call. In fact, how often, ask your grandkids this, will they text to somebody that's sitting in the same room as them?
Oh, yeah.
So, define our audience, a couple of questions. Does everyone get the message? So on there, I have the definition of lead or. So what's the lead? The lead in journalism is that first paragraph to catch somebody's attention, okay? The grabber, okay? So as we're promoting Roundtable, probably the most important takeaway that I found in this is what's our lead? How are we getting them excited about Roundtable? It's like, if I was to open up, when I open up a new tab, it brings up all the news articles, okay? And every once in a while, you look at the news articles, you read the headlines, and then you go read the article, and like, does the article have anything to do with what the lead was? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, But what's the purpose of that? The lead.
In people's interest.
Yeah, pique their interest to get them to read further, to say, hey, do I want to come? And so it's crafting a message of why is this beneficial for you to come and take time to be there? And I think that's something, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about, Roundtable, how are we promoting it? How do I get, how do we improve attendance? How do we make sure that in our trying to promote it, we entice them enough to say, hey, it's worth the hour that you spend to come to Roundtable because we're going to do something beneficial. Does that make sense? So as we're looking at the content of whatever we put out there, what do we have in the header? What do we have in the body? And, other than, I look at this and it's not that we're doing it right, because we're not in the Timpanogos district. It's like Roundtables tonight. Here's the link, here's the time. But we haven't done anything to say, here's what we're going to expect, here's what's going to go on. So it's caused me a little bit of pain because I think, okay, I'm not doing a really good job, but how can I do it better? So, if we look at this, there's some basic information we have to have out there. How many are doing actual in-person roundtables right now? So you're doing it.
Yeah, we're doing one in person.
You're doing one in person.
We were at it. But then council, we're doing 3 times a year virtual.
Virtual, yeah. Are yours virtual or
Virtual.
what about you? Virtual or in person?
Virtual, well, I don't have a unit, not a part of a unit specifically, so.
Okay. But in your district,
Yeah.
the roundtables are virtual or in person?
In person.
Oh, you're the same?
Yeah.
Okay. We're still virtual. I don't know realistically.
Well, your last one, you did a combination. You had in-person, virtual, and then a group virtual with Vernal, which was very interesting.
Yeah, we did. So we had 15 or so online, and then we had 2 other locations. So
Was it all virtual or was your main location?
the main location was in Orem.
And you did it live.
That was live
And you
there.
put it
and they
on
were filming
Zoom.
that. And it was on Zoom.
And so the people in Vernal were watching Zoom and the 15 people were watching Zoom.
15 people are watching Zoom. And then they also had a camera on the 15 people in Vernal so that they were like part of a Zoom meeting up there. And I don't know exactly how, technology wise, I don't know exactly how they did it up in Vernal.
We need to talk more.
Annalise could tell you. Because she was in charge of it.
So I was somewhat aware, so they could communicate with the live one.
Yeah.
And the live was going out there, but so it was like, almost like they were more in person.
So they had, what'd you have? You had, I know you had 80 total, so you 15. You had 40 at the Orem office,
About 25 or so at the Vernal.
at 25 at Vernal. So you had it, so they could have the group experience, which is what we've been missing. That's what one thing that Zoom doesn't give you, is the group experience. So they had 2 group experiences, one of them live, and then 15 people on. I think that's just amazing. I think that's just, that covers so many people and gives so many more people opportunities. Yet you created within the Vernal, you created, and with the Orem, you created that in-person portion of it that really is important to all of this.
So, and it's just considering the distance people have to travel. And that's why I say that we will probably always have some people on virtual. And the hard part about having some people on virtual is there's some things that you can do in person, you know, especially I'm going to go to Cub Scouts. There's so many cheers and stuff like that you can do. And, or even like if you want to have an outdoor cooking demonstration and talk about, you know, outdoor cooking. It's one thing to do it in person. It's another thing to do it on Zoom, you know, because you would have to have a little bit more setup, you know, something, videotaping the fire, all that stuff. So there's.
So one of the things, the reason I'm so fascinated with that deal is by having people come together, you build a camaraderie. It's just like we've done here in this Commissioner College. We personally met 40 or so people. We've interacted in classes. We've read together, and we've laughed and studied together. So that brings a closeness and an understanding, and even resources. I've made connections with people that I would hope to have had, and so for me as the council commissioner, it's been absolutely fabulous.
Yeah. And and that's the one thing I taught almost for 2 years when I was teaching at Ensign College. We were on Zoom classes, okay? And you lose something, that personal connection, with the students,
Yeah.
as opposed to when you're actually in classroom with your students there. I mean, I would much rather do that than be an online instructor.
Well, even the Zoom though, there are people than some of the national meetings I've been on, I've made connections with some of those people. Never seen them in person. Probably will never see them in person.
No.
But have taken the opportunity to interact through that way, at least have an interaction that way. It's not as good as the personal one.
No.
But it is a way to do it.
Yeah. So let's flip through another. So we talked about a bunch of the different assets. So here is the league. I'm not sure exactly the proper pronunciation of it. But it's that opening sales and fair revenues are its most important aspect. So what I'd like you to do.
80 characters, huh?
What's that?
Says the lead is the first 80 characters. Is that-
Yeah. How do you grab their attention? And I think if anything we can take away is if we're going to promote and we're going to put something out there, how do we get something succinct and say, come to roundtable in the promotion that's gonna say, hey, I want you to come. So what I'd like you to do is just, we'll do it by table. So put you two together, you three together. Come up with a paragraph. I say 80 characters is about a paragraph or a sentence or two to think about. Go back to your last roundtable. So hold it, you didn't do roundtable, so did you? So maybe you, but you do a roundtable, right? Yes. So why don't you come up here with these guys, look at your last roundtable and think about, now that it's over and done with, come up with what would have been a good lead for that roundtable to advertise. And then if you guys could do the same. So you mind coming up with these two? Since I know that you're not actually in charge of roundtable, either of you, so this might work better. But you guys can collaborate together.
Well, he is kind of, because they do a
Kind of,
council-wide.
yeah, council.
Are you the council-wide?
Okay.
No, we had one in between the council.
That's
This
right.
last one was,
Here, do you want a chair?
no,
And I'll be honest with you. When I was a scoutmaster in California, I didn't get to roundtable very often because I was so busy with so many different things. And I thought I knew it all.
Well, that's why we put the roundtables, at least the three that we do virtually for the council, online.
So let's go with what you guys came up with. You want to share, and then we'll have you guys share, okay?
We did the yearly planning, we put like a catch line of keys to saving time, get organized. For personal finance, where did that dollar go? For the Klondike, come see how polar bears stay warm. And then for, what was this one? Oh, for citizenship, a ship that shouldn't sink. For camping, camping is calling you, and for swimming, we said stay afloat, and for hiking, let's take a peek.
That has its own meaning.
PEAK
Of course.
instead of PE.
I know, because you said, let's take a peek. I'm thinking like, but then you're talking about the mountaintop.
Yeah.
But now think about that. If you had that in the tagline and the subject line of the roundtable, that might pique somebody's interest to read down and say, okay, here's, you know, as you go down, because in the message, you do have to cover, you know, roundtable, date, time, place, you know, the virtual stuff. And including this, here's what we're really gonna be talking about. And then you're gonna get the more detail down here. Although you've got the lead up and above. And, you know, because we're trying to answer the question right here. Why is it the best use of my time?
Yeah.
What's in it for me? Let's hear yours.
We didn't do any of those.
We weren't nearly as creative as Andrew,
That's okay.
but
That is totally
Well, listen.
okay.
But I like the idea of having a little bit of humor in the week.
Mhm.
And that's why I suggested we get a door prize, but we don't have any doors to give, so, but I think that if you can just get the idea that they're going to give something of value personally in making them more effective in their scouting position, that if they're dedicated, they'll come. And so we just have to make it interesting and like you say, pique their interest.
But
You don't have to pardon that pun.
But the whole point is, you know, getting, you know, as we're trying to promote something, we're gonna make it so that people want it, okay? And really, as we're looking at roundtable promotion, really is advertising and it's marketing. And why do I want this product? What need does it fill? Here's just a couple other thoughts I want to just cover in the few minutes we have left. We need to explain the value of each roundtable. You know, like what you said, will it make my scouting role easier? How will it make it easier for me? And that's even like with saving time. Yeah, I'm going to come back to, you know, the year annual planning. And I thought, so how does it make it easier for me? Will I be better at my scouting role? And obviously, yeah, I mean, coming here today to Commissioners College, I know I have personally, I'm going like, okay, I got some growth I got to do. There's some things I got to change. I got to do a better job. And I've learned a lot, you know, from the different classes and the different interactions. So improve there. And like we said, with can I make new friends? You know, and that's the thing, especially where we can have the in-person. And that's the hard part about the virtual sometimes. That's why you want to have the virtual stuff beforehand, afterhand. One of the things I try to do is to encourage participation is I'll go around to each individual person on the breakout room and ask for their response. And so that everybody has a chance to speak. Because I've learned well enough that a lot of, you know, when you're in a group setting, we all have questions, but half the time we don't want to ask our question or make our comment, you know, and they're always waiting for somebody else to do that. So, let's see, we looked at that part. If there's a way to be creative, I'm just leaving there, you know, as far as advertising, I know we're going to send out the emails. It's cheap. And I thought about the postcards because I used to send out postcards to a lot of different things. So I got good at printing out and I thought, oh, maybe that might be something to do once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a regular thing, because I know it's not in the budget and it costs, but you know, it might help to reach a few people to do that, other than just all the social media stuff that we're inundated with. Talked about that, grabbed their attentions, did the activity. Some last questions up here, just to think about. You know, have you taken a survey? Does the date and time work? Well, and I know that pretty much the district chooses the date and the time, and we're kind of there. Whatever it is, it is. But, you know, what is the best nights to do it? I know if all your scout troops meet on the same night you're doing a roundtable or all your units, and now the units have, and especially here in our council right now, because they're finding other activities. And so what night do they meet on? Does the location work? You know, obviously, that's for in-person, and you know, most of our districts don't have that opportunity to do it in person right now. Too many announcements, and I still think about whenever time I hear the word, we used to sing announcements. So, you know, I came up with a new version. It's a verbal communique. I tried never to use that word years ago. Does the meeting run too long? And I'm going to say on our Zoom ones, and if you look at the roundtable, they say there's a 50-minute or 70-minute format or 60 to 90-minute format. I know that our district right now, we're doing basically a 60-minute format for roundtable. So, and it makes it tough sometimes. to get it all in there, but
I think the 90 minutes for like an every other month.
yeah. But we're doing, but that's, questions to ask. What topics would non-attendees want? And that's kind of hard. I think the key I got that someone had mentioned is the people there can say what they want, but, unit commissioners can also be a feedback channel to the roundtable. Say, here's some things that might be beneficial. And we need to look to see what could be possibly be out there. What else could be done to improve roundtable? On Zoom roundtable, one of the things I struggle with is we can talk a lot, but I haven't come up with a good way yet. I'm going to be honest, because hands-on demonstrations. And, maybe if I had a video camera and I could, someone videotape and then you could do it better, but, especially for the Zoom ones, how could we be done better? And Zoom is great, especially when people are so scattered out. But there are some limitations in just how to do it better.
Still tough to do a Dutch oven demonstration.
Yeah, it would be tough to do it on Zoom. Yeah, I'm not sure. I wish I would, be better at that.
The taste test is awful hard.
Yeah.
The tape test is awful hard. Yeah, you don't get to have.
I can give you my opinion.
So summary, you should now be able, think about your roundtable audience, identify available resources to get the message out there and craft a message. I think if nothing else, I hope this would be probably the best takeaway from today is, are we crafting a message to get people there? Not just telling them, hey, time and date, but crafting a message and saying, here's what's going on. And then, look for that. So thank you for being here. And it's basically time for us to get back in the other room.
Thank you.